business owners, brand owners, they're so busy focusing on developing incredible products that we're excited to taste and try and buy that they might forget to focus on the strategy to get themselves selling in stores and standing out in their category. So we're going to break that down into little tiny actionable steps by the end of this. We'll have 4 actionable steps that you can take, and we can go step by step. The first thing we want to talk about is what is color blocking within your packaging and why does that benefit you? So color blocking is the use of colors across different products in your product line that are strategically picked so that people's eyes naturally are attracted to it. When you walk through the store shelf or through the aisles of the stores, you're pushing a shopping cart and it's actually out of your periphery view that you're noticing most products. And if you're brand new or if you have new products on your line, the chances are that a customer is going to walk through the aisle and walk right past your product. Also in grocery stores, the lighting is it's compromised, it's not natural lighting. There's the shadow that's cast by a shelf. So you want to utilize as many tools as possible to grab a customer's attention.
And so what do you say? There's only 3 seconds, right? You have 3 seconds of the customer's time to get their attention?
Yes. And color is actually the first thing that your eye notices. When you're going through a store, you don't even consciously realize it, but color is actually the primary first thing that grabs our eyes' attention. So you want to use color to optimize the fact that you've got on that store shelf, how can you really stand out? And color is the #1 thing you can use. And the reason why that is important is not only does it help people to notice your product line, but also a lot of retailers use this when developing merchandising strategies. So you'll go and shop and you see at the end of an aisle, they call this an end cap. And that's where a lot of people actually notice products because they're usually about to walk down the aisle. So the products are actually the front of their face. And so retailers will organize things by color, specifically to grab attention, to cause customers to walk down that aisle or to grab those combination of products. So if you were watching this on video, then you'd see a picture of myself in a Whole Foods, and there is an end cap right here, and you can see the use of Whole Foods using chips and soda of similar color families, combining them in a really powerful eye-attracting display. So you want to be able to not only grab attention within your category by yourself, but also possibly in concert with other products.
Gotcha.
So those are the benefits, is that you'll stand out. And how can we use it? There are a few key ways that people use color blocking. And if you're watching the video, you can see literal photos of the snack and the candy category in Whole Foods, where I recently went and took some pictures. But the things, if you're not watching it and you're listening, what you would be able to see is that the color blocking can be either used as a solid primary color. So for example, one box that's mostly green, mostly blue, mostly pink. So that if you're looking at this, you can see that those packages that have high color saturation really grab your attention, especially because when there's shadows from the shelf above, that way you can see the color allows you to see the entire bag or the entire box. But if you don't want to use that because it feels off-brand, it feels too playful or young, you can also use color blocking when you're just calling out a specific flavor. So if you look at Theo's in this picture, and for those who are listening, you can just see that on the left-hand side of the Theo's chocolate bag, stand-up pouch, there is a block of color to the left of the packaging artwork. And what that does is it helps a customer to understand, oh, this is a Theo's chocolate, which we can tell because the logo is consistent across all the different flavors. But the color to the left is a call out for flavor. So you'll have an almond, a peanut chocolate, a hazelnut chocolate. And the fact that the different colors are there helps me to know I'm buying a different flavor. You can also see this on the bark thins that are over here, which is a chocolate bark. And it's very thin. It always has little almond inclusions. If I were to look at the packaging as I'm walking, I may not realize that those are different flavors. The color bar at the top helps me to know each of these is a different flavor. Other ways that you can use that is actually with shading, so that you can take an image. For example, if you're always selling popcorn, you can use lighter colors right behind the popcorn to indicate different flavors, which is a way that you can add shading. And you also can do that by using products of different colors. So you might have marshmallow, like the Smash up there has some of the patterns in the background has a different color to help you to understand that the flavor might be different. So the textures, the patterns, the shading, all can use different colors across different flavors in your product line, and that will help to grab attention.
Gotcha. And as you can see, it's like not every shelf is equally lit, depending on where the lights are, what kind of lighting it is. So you have to take all those things into consideration, right?
Yeah, in fact, it's shocking. As you're looking at this, when you're shopping in a store, if your product is on the shelf, or you might have pet brands that you like shopping, you may not actually notice this. So when you take a picture and you look at it kind of in a more removed scientific way, you realize, wow, my eyes are really attracted to certain colors and certain packaging designs in my category when I do it this way. So I want to talk about how do you pick the colors for your color blocking strategy? And what's really interesting, so besides the fact that our eyes are attracted to color in general, our eyes are even more attracted to contrast. So if you had a sea of red packaging, we may not notice that when we're walking past it. We may not realize that there's different brands that are there on the store shelf. And within one box, if all of the colors are shades of red, again, it will not attract our attention and it might actually blend in. So the primal part of our brain, the back part, which is the part that's processing these colors, looks for contrast. And if you're watching this on video, so we highly recommend if you're listening to the audio that you come and watch the video as well to get the most out of it. You can see a color wheel. So if you're just listening, imagine a color wheel where all of the different colors and shades of a rainbow are in a circle. And what you do to maximize contrast is pick the color that's on the exact opposite. So here you can see purple, the exact opposite would be yellow. You can see green, and the exact opposite would be a bright red. So when you take that and apply that to packaging, for example, to the right of this slide, you would see examples of fake boxes. So we would have a box that is red that has a contrasting green in the center to maybe the location of your product photography, or your logo might be in the center of that green box. And then below that is an example of another box that could be within your product line, and it would be a green box with a red center. If you put these two things next to each other, and that's how you've designed your packaging, the contrast is it draws your eye in, because you're like, what is going on there? It creates movement is really what it does. Your eye is trying to figure out what is going on. So the use of the contrasting colors both within one packaging artwork design as well as across your entire product line is going to create a lot of attention.
Great. And so basically you pick the colors that are opposite each other on the wheel that's on the left, and that would be what works well together on your package.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And so most people are familiar with a color wheel, and I'm showing here, if you're watching this visually, and if you're just listening, imagine this. I'm using very primary colors in this example because most people, when they learn art as a child, that's the first place that they get exposed to the concept of a color wheel. But if you have your own brand, you might have your own unique colors that you feel are very connected to you. And the question might be, how do I apply this to my color scheme? I want to have a different personality. I don't want to be primary colors and it feels too young. So this slide is an example of bright colors that go with Emily. Me as a person, my branding is bright and fun and action-oriented, and so I use really bold, loud colors. So you can see that you can take a professional designer can take any shade of colors, any family of colors that is correct for your brand and still use this contrasting concept. So you can see here, my colors palette on the left, how we've applied it here to a vertical or horizontal shelf of packaging. So after you've designed your packaging and you've started to utilize this strategy, you might ask yourself, what does color blocking then have to do within my category? And it's very important that you keep this in mind. So we're talking about the use of color blocking for you individually within your brand. But before you actually start your packaging design process, you actually need to go walk the store aisles within your category and see what's already happening. Because besides having contrast within your own product line, you want to have contrast within your category. So here I have a picture, an example of the beverage category. And I took a snapshot of what is happening in the energy category. Now you can see bright white, and you can see how Rockstar has utilized color blocking within their signature logo, which is that star at the very front. So to indicate different flavors, they've had the color red, they've had the color black, they've had yellow popping in and out of their core logo. You see how Monster is utilizing the same thing. So Monster Energy Drink is a black can. They have this very dark look to them, which typically would not stand out on a shelf. You can see that the black color by itself sort of fades in the shadows of a shelf, which is already black. They're using color within their logo. So they have a green M, they've got a blue M, and later on in other store shelves that have beverages, you can even see that sometimes they will actually turn cans white to create contrast. So the use of color is played throughout all of their packaging artwork, their logo, but it has to be done strategically for it to be effective. You can also see here Red Bull has different stripes. These are the new Red Bull energy drinks that have different flavors to them. You can see how they really stand out compared to the traditional Red Bull category or Red Bull can. And the thing that Red Bull did correct within their cans is that they have color blocking contrast within the one packaging artwork. So you can see that they have the blue and the silver, and then below that silver and blue. You can see this right here, how it's kind of like a line down their packaging. That contrast helps to grab attention. So that's the use of color blocking within one pattern of their packaging. And it becomes more powerful and eye attracting the more SKUs they have on the shelf. So if they have 10 cans of Red Bull, it really grabs your attention that they've got this fun, crazy contrasting pattern that's standing out.
So I think there's a couple of important points here. One, obviously, by knowing what colors your competitors are using, it gives you the opportunity to pick colors that will stand out in that set. And the larger, point is also the importance of visiting stores and seeing what they have on the shelf. All of the stores that you're planning to be in, do this and do that research well before you start getting into your thoughts on what the colors should be, correct?
Oh my gosh, Joe, yes. And what is fun about it is you can turn it into a team project. Go in, walk multiple stores, write a list of every store that you are going to get yourself into. Start manifesting and creating a sales strategy before you do your packaging design. Write out those stores. Where is your target audience? And this is important because a Whole Foods customer and the product offerings might be very different than what you would find at a Walmart. So you may not find Monster Energy drink at Whole Foods. So that's not actually a competitor you need to worry about when you're designing something to stand out. It's interesting, especially like the sunscreen category, which I was recently working in. Whole Foods has very different products than you would find at Target. So go walk the stores where you're planning to strategically stand out. Take your iPhone out, stand back and take a picture of the entire store shelf. And when you go back and talk to your packaging design team and the rest of your team designing the next packaging artwork, look at it and say to yourself, what stands out? What is melding in and not standing out, and what is really catching my eye? And so, for example, if you were going into the energy drink category, I wouldn't recommend that you look very similar to some of these packaging designs, or you're not going to stand out. You want to design something that would be in contrast with what's currently out here on the market.
So you're taking both into consideration. One, using color blocking in comparison to your competitors, but also within your brands, color blocking to stand out from each other too. So you have to kind of find a balance between those two.
Yes. And if you're, for example, a company that is really strictly online, most of your online sales is where you're competing. You can do the same thing when you go to Amazon. So if you're selling on Amazon or you're selling on Walmart.com or Amazon, ECRM has different Amazon buyers that come. So if you're planning to sell online, you should do the exact same thing when you type in the search field, hey, we're launching a new beverage, go look and see what is out there on the top first 2 pages of the search function, just to see what is going on there as well. And on your own store, so this is what's interesting. Many people ask me, what is the difference between packaging design for stores versus online commerce? And if you are a brand who's only selling online on your own website, there's a lot more room for you to have very muted colors, for you to not have to utilize so much of the strategy, because your website is almost like a store shelf. So you can utilize contrast and curate a lot of things to kind of help to support your products to sell. But in stores, it's very important that you use color blocking to be, because your background is other people's products. So let's talk about some examples within categories that you might be selling your products in. So the first category I'm going to show is actually a customer of ours, and we're very proud to share the Perfect Bite Company's work. So they sell frozen food, and what is so interesting about the frozen food aisle is that the lighting is terrible, because it just takes one person to go in and open that freezer door and be indecisive about Rocky Road versus strawberry ice cream, and they let all of that hot air come in and the entire glass door steams up. On top of that, the lighting is always from the top. And so I guarantee you, if you sell frozen food products and you go in and look there, a lot of products really are hard to read. And so you need to use color blocking. So for example, with this particular brand, you can see that a lot of these are frozen appetizers that the Perfect Bite Company sells. This is their branded product line. And to utilize the color blocking, we just placed a banner of color at the top that plays in with the logo, and it's supposed to imply, hey, you're at a buffet, you're at a party, what would this product look like on your, it can't be too sharp and crazy because we're trying to sell something sophisticated. So this is an example of the use of color blocking that helps to grab attention, but it's not so crazy that you can't see it anymore. This is another example of color blocking that we actually did within one brand. So the brand is Saluna Skincare Solutions by Kimberly Snyder. She's a famous author, thought influencer on the topic of health. She's written books with Deepak Chopra, all about how to have beauty on the inside out through what you eat, and also having organic products on the outside of your skin. And so because their products are sold in high-end boutiques and they're also sold within their online commerce platform, we were able to use color blocking within one product line. So the logo remains the same fonts, the positioning is constant, but the color, the use of color across the different categories helps you to grab your eyes as you want to buy all 4 of the products within their line. And it really stood out within a boutique environment where a lot of those products are so mod and the colors are muted so they could be cool, but they don't stand out. So this is something that we did to really help them. It was a lot of play. If you come and watch the video, you can see that there's a blues, a bright yellow, a deeper, heavier gold, as well as a rich orange, very hippie coloring. Next, we have Albanese, which is a company that often goes to ECRM, and they're world famous for their gummy bears, and you can see them in CVS, you can see them at Target, you can go get them at the Sprouts bulk bin. They also have a chocolate line, which we designed their packaging for. And because most of their colors that they use for their gummy bear line is playing on primary colors and is very playful and youthful, we took a richer, deeper tones to apply to their chocolate, which is a more elevated, sophisticated, and expensive product to buy off of their website. And their core logo is Albanese, which we've kept consistent. And the colors of the entire packaging is what we played with. To add some depth, some field of depth, we did a UV spot pattern. So if you look closely at some of these boxes, you'll see a hashing across there. And it actually, when you hold the box in person, it changes in the light. You can see this pattern when you move the box under different light settings. So that helps to grab attention, and it looks incredible when it comes to social media. Customers reposting things. Another example that we did not do this one, but Dr. Bronner's is a famous brand. And for a long time, they had a very medicinal, simple label. And they started to grow. They started to get into more stores. And you know what they did? They added color blocking. So you can see here that this is a way that they indicate different scents is by the use of color. And they really have simple packaging. They didn't deviate from their brand at all. This label format has been consistent for years. You can just see white, simple box, kind of like medicinal looking label, but the use of color is what helps them to stand out and become a little more modern. And of course, here's a great example, LaCroix. I drink LaCroix like crazy. I mean, every day with ice and trying to like do some low carb, healthy diet or choose that as an alternative to a cocktail. And LaCroix has done a really wonderful job of utilizing color blocking to indicate different flavors. And you can see that they've kept consistent the colors of their logo. So LaCroix is constant in this dark blue. They have the same kind of waves and patterns, but the color is what indicates different flavors. Makes a great palette. You can see this here. Mm-hmm. This is also in a Whole Foods.
Yeah, the palette almost looks like the color blocking, images that you showed earlier.
Exactly. This here is another great example, Annie's Organic Fruit Snacks. Annie's is such a fun company because they really focus on serving moms and dads who wanted to give healthy snacks to their kids. And they here, you can see, utilize color blocking within a very primary color family in so many different ways. So you can see this with the fruit roll-ups where they have just solid colors where the finger and the hands on the inside, which are holding the fruit roll-ups, have like a deeper shade of the color that they already have selected. So this is really well designed to be able to stand out together in a family, a product line family. Above that, you can see a lot more color play where they're using the contrasting color of yellow to highlight the fact that they've got gummy bears. I should call them gummy bunnies. And then the primary, the contrasting colors are in the body of the actual packaging artwork. They've really done a fun job. So the things
I noticed, actually, and it looks like you're going to go into it in the next slide, about the call-outs too. And they each have specific call-outs, fonts, things like that.
Yeah, and so so with packaging design, there's two things that we need to have happen, and they kind of are in conflict with perpendicular lines. One is that we need to have contrast so that something grabs our attention. It needs to be loud or there needs to be movement in some way, but at the same time, it can't be too funky and crazy. It needs to be consistent enough for us to be able to identify it or to be able to quickly go and read where the flavor might be or the brand or logo. So those are two perpendicular concepts, to have consistency across your product line as well as variety. And so the way that you keep that is that you keep your logo in the same place across that product line, or you keep the flavor in the same location with the same fonts across that product line with the same colors. And then you allow the colors in other areas to change, so that way you have consistency and variety in one packaging design. So there's some things, though, that you want to avoid. Please do not use all dark shades. So if you are, for example, really looking to be very bright or very dark because you want to create a certain feeling, you need to find at least one signature contrasting color to be able to make your packaging stand out if you're selling in stores. If you're doing it online, you can get away with quite a lot. But in stores, you need to take into consideration the fact that you're on a dark shelf, and so you want to use dark colors and light colors together to create contrast. You don't want all the colors to be in the same family. So red on red on red on red, different shades of red will really not work well. Your eye just won't catch it. So you want to use contrasts. You don't want your fonts to be too small. And so you might be saying, oh, look, I'm doing contrasting colors in small fonts. People will not be able to see it. If you have a purple box with small yellow font, it really will not work well. You need to make sure that the contrast needs to be within shapes, fonts, patterns that are large enough that will grab my attention. And I'm talking large. So you don't want it to be tiny little shading. You want it to be something that's going to really pop.
So when it comes to smaller fonts, what if you have a lot of information you're trying to convey? Should you limit the amount that's on the front and use other means of doing that?
Yes, 100%. So utilizing big shapes and focusing and narrowing in on a few topics are really what grabs attention. And if you go and look at massive brands that are really exploding and taking over the universe within your category, you'll notice that as soon as they have venture capital money, as soon as they have a professional executive who bought their company and is taking it, from a few $1,000,000 to hundreds of millions of dollars, that they utilize these things. So you can go and walk any grocery store and you can see that when a company is really on fire, their professional team is minimizing the amount of fonts, utilizing contrasting colors, big shapes, bold colors, because that just works. It just works. It helps to sell product. And we're here to sell product. This is our business. We're passionate about getting what we've created in the hands of customers who will love it. And so you need to do this in a professional, organized way, and that's the best thing. If you want to have small font and you've got a lot of information to share, I highly recommend that you put it on the back of the box and that you use simple, not crazy fonts, not crazy colors. Let's just use black and white because it's simple to read. And you can even do something where if you have a blue box, you can do on the back a white box around your nutritional and ingredients, or the romance copy on the back of the box. That way, you don't need to grab their attention once they've already flipped the box. You need them to be able to read it. So I would focus on that for the back.
And you could always use a QR code that leads to more information if you want.
Yes, I'm all about that. Getting customers to be a part of your bigger community. This is a powerful way that you can keep the conversation going with customers after they bought your product in stores, so they keep coming back and buying it later. I love that idea. So what are the actions that you can take today? How do you actually apply this to your packaging design? First and foremost, walk your category aisle and take pictures. So grab your iPhone or your Android, stand in your category, literally make a list of all the stores you're going to go to, collect those pictures, put them into your Google Drive folder, and organize them, and send them to your packaging artwork team. Share them with your branding team. Look at it as an analytical exercise to see what's missing and what's a repetitive color scheme that you're noticing, and how can you be different. The second strategy is to make sure that you create and print physical mock-ups before you actually go to mass production. The reason why this is important is because it's going to help you to validate the colors, because sometimes one red may not be as saturated or powerful as another red. And so you want to print those and actually put them in store shelves to see how it stands out. And also, most people who do graphic design, I shouldn't say most people, I should say an error that some graphic designers do is that they will design within a vacuum of their own computer screen. And most brand owners do the same thing. They look at the packaging, they print it out maybe, they look at it on their own table. They forget to take it to a store and actually look at it in contrast to the competition. And we can't help it. I've done it myself because you get so busy. It's so much work designing packaging artwork. It seems like, oh, this isn't that important. What is it, putting pictures on a box? But it really is a strategy. You've gone all this way doing this incredible product, manufacturing, putting up all this money for packaging and manufacturing. You need to bring it home. And this is that last thing that puts a bow on it. And so I highly recommend that you create physical mock-ups and take them into stores. If you need someone to do that, Pearl Resourcing obviously can print mock-ups for you, so that you can take them either to show them to your retail buyer for a VCRM presentation, or take them into stores to test the colors in real life. And then there's two other steps. Hire a professional packaging designer. I know it's a temptation to, especially if you're a startup and you're bootstrapping, it's a temptation to try to save money in every single area, which is important. It's important. You need to be strategic. But you also need to put money where it matters. So are you going to shortchange your customers and use cornstarch syrup for a product if you're trying to sell something organic just to save a few dollars? No, you need to do it in a way that's going to create brand loyalty and add to the long-term equity of your product. So I recommend hiring a professional who knows how to do packaging design. Of course, my favorite is Pearl Resourcing, but there's a million companies out there. And I just recommend that you at least go get a quote and consider investing some time and money into someone who can really help you. The second thing is you can talk to a product growth consultant, like hire someone who is experienced in launching products who can also help talk you through this. If this is an overwhelming process, you can't figure out how to be different, go talk to someone who can help you. You can go call someone, try to get a mentor off of LinkedIn. You can ask your retail buyers at ECRM to give you feedback of the packaging artwork before you go to mass production. I have a client who's going to ECRM and we're doing some packaging design for them, and they are going to take 3 different options to go show their retail buyer and say, before we pull the trigger, which one do you want to have in your store? And if you want to talk to me, you can hire me, and here is my website. It's emilyannpage.com, and you can do a 15-minute consult, and I can give you a quick perspective of it to help you get an idea of what you should do.
And just to let everybody know that Emily has been working with a lot of our supplier community in helping them prepare for their virtual presentations, because that's a whole nother world as well. And so there's a lot of opportunities there too.
Right, this actual sales pitch, the PowerPoint, how to communicate your brand and position it so that it will sell with, you maximize your ECRM meeting. Definitely offer coaching on that if you want help before your first ECRM meeting, because you deserve to nail it. ECRM is a really fun way to make relationships, to meet people, and you have a powerful brand that needs to be seen and bought. So I wish you the best of success to every entrepreneur and brand owner, retailer out there. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.